Have you ever pondered over the existence of giants, not in fairy tales but in biblical times? A group of beings known as the Nephilim. These mysterious creatures, the progeny of the fallen angels and the daughters of Adam, are introduced to us in Genesis 6. The term Nephilim translates to fallen ones, derived from the Hebrew verb nephil, which means to fall. Their presence in the Holy Scriptures is as intriguing as it is unsettling. They weren't just notable for their immense size, but also their superhuman wickedness. Their very existence was a threat to the human race and in contravention to the divine word. Thus, their annihilation became a necessity, leading to the great flood that washed away their wicked world. But here's where the plot thickens. Despite their supposed obliteration, we encounter them again in the Book of Numbers. So, we find ourselves standing at the precipice of a mystery. How did the Nephilim reappear after the flood? As we delve deeper into biblical accounts, we stumble upon another mention of the Nephilim, well after the destructive flood. The Book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 33, speaks of a second wave of these monumental beings, the Nephilim. It reads, "There we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim." This statement is quite perplexing. If the Nephilim were indeed wiped out by the Great Flood, how could they reappear in the narrative? The answer lies in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. It enlightens us with the fact that there were Nephilim on the earth in Noah's days, and also after that. This "after that" refers to a time following the flood. During this period, the sons of God again cohabited with human women, producing offspring who were, once again, Nephilim. These post-flood Nephilim were not mere replicas of their antediluvian predecessors. They bore a distinctive characteristic. They were the mighty men, the heroes of the old, men of renown. In Hebrew, they were called Gibbor, a term used to denote their extraordinary prowess and strength. These beings, though birthed from ungodly unions, achieved fame and recognition for their remarkable abilities. However, the post-flood Nephilim were fewer in number, and their geographical spread was more restrained. Unlike the pre-flood era, where their presence was widespread, these beings were largely confined to Canaan. They became known as the nations of Canaan. This confinement to Canaan was not a mere coincidence. It held significant implications. The Israelites, upon their arrival in Canaan, were tasked with the destruction of these beings. Just as the flood served to purge the earth of the initial wave of Nephilim, the Israelites were the chosen instrument for the removal of the second wave. Their re-emergence in Canaan gives rise to yet another question. Why were they mostly confined to this region? Welcome to Canaan, the land that bore witness to the last of the Nephilim. The Nephilim, these fallen ones, made their presence known once more in this region after the devastating flood. But this time the eruption was different. It was smaller, more localized, confined primarily to Canaan. They were no longer scattered across the earth. They were now known as the nations of Canaan. So why this shift, you ask? Why were these superhuman beings, these giants of wickedness, now restricted to Canaan? The scriptures don't provide a clear-cut rationale. However, a plausible explanation could be the divine design, the will of the higher power. Perhaps it was a part of the grand scheme to limit their influence, to confine their wickedness to a specific area. Now, Canaan was not just a random choice. It was a land of great significance. It was the land promised to the descendants of Abraham. It was the land where the Israelites, after their exodus from Egypt, were destined to settle. The presence of the Nephilim, thus, posed a direct threat to the divine plan. Therefore, the sword of Israel became a necessity, just as the flood had been before. It was needed for the destruction of these abnormal beings, these Nephilim, who were now identified as the nations of Canaan. This was a battle of survival, a battle of faith, a clash between the divine design and the fallen ones. The Israelites, under divine command, waged war against these nations of Canaan, these last of the Nephilim. And in this epic struggle, the Nephilim met their end. They were wiped out from the face of the earth, their wickedness extinguished, their threat nullified. Thus, the Nephilim, these intriguing beings of biblical lore, met their end, but their story continues to fascinate us. Their existence, their rise and fall, their battles and their eventual destruction, all form an enigmatic chapter in the grand narrative of biblical history. So, what legacy did these biblical giants, the Nephilim, leave behind? Let's delve into the lasting impression these intriguing beings have made on the biblical narratives and interpretations. The Nephilim, these so-called fallen ones, have left a mark as indelible as their mighty stature. Their role in the biblical narrative as the progeny of divine beings and human women brings a fascinatingly complex layer to the story of humanity as told in the Bible. Their existence, however controversial and debated, has sparked countless discussions. These range from theological debates to speculative fiction, from serious academic scholarship to popular culture references. The concept of these superhuman beings, their rise and fall, is a testament to the rich tapestry of human imagination and interpretation. The Nephilim were not just giants in size, but also in wickedness. Their destruction, whether by the Great Flood or by the sword of Israel, was deemed necessary for the preservation of the human race. This narrative has often been used to underscore the consequences of crossing divine boundaries, adding a moral dimension to their tale. Furthermore, the Nephilim's presence in the Bible has fueled ongoing debates about the intersection of the divine and the human. Their existence raises questions about the nature of divinity, humanity, and the blurry lines in between. Such discussions continue to engage theologians, scholars, and enthusiasts alike, adding depth to our understanding of these ancient texts. The narrative of the Nephilim also serves as a reminder of the diversity of interpretations of the Bible. The various interpretations of who or what the Nephilim were reflect the rich and varied perspectives that different readers bring to the text. This, in itself, contributes to the ongoing dynamism and vitality of biblical studies. Whether real or metaphorical, the Nephilim continue to tower over us, an enduring testament to the fascinating complexities of biblical narratives.
Have you ever wondered who the first giants of our world were? They were the Nephilim, a breed of beings first mentioned in the book of Genesis. You see, the Nephilim were not just your run-of-the-mill giants, they were a unique existence, a different breed, enigmatic in character, shrouded in mystery, and carrying a legacy that has intrigued scholars and enthusiasts alike. The first mention of these intriguing beings is in Genesis, the first book of the Bible. Here we're introduced to the Nephilim within a context that is both fascinating and perplexing. Genesis describes them as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, suggesting a rather divine origin. However, their existence was not all heavenly. The Nephilim were known to be mighty warriors and men of renown, suggesting a formidable presence on the earth. But what about their location? Where did they dwell? There's a curious phrase in Genesis that might provide some insight. The phrase is kaus. The Canaanite was then, that is already in the land. This suggests that at the time Abraham left Haran and entered Canaan, the Nephilim, or their descendants, were already there, firmly established. With this phrase, we get a hint of the significant role the Nephilim played in the early chapters of human history. They were not just transient beings, they were settlers, occupiers, and to an extent, rulers of the land they inhabited. But they didn't just stop at Canaan, they spread out, establishing themselves in various locations, including Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and Shavan Kiriathaim. This expansion further demonstrates their influence and power during that era. Thus, the Nephilim were established in the world already known as Rephaim and Emim, and had formed their base at Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and Shavan Kiriathaim. An intriguing start to an even more intriguing tale of these enigmatic giants of the ancient world. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into their story in the next scenes. The second eruption of the Nephilim was a significant event in history, coming soon after it became known that the seed was to come through Abraham. This fascinating chapter of ancient history unfolds as Abraham departs from Haran and enters Canaan. It is here we find a curious note. The Canaanite was then, that is to say, already in the land. This is our first hint at the presence of the Nephilim's second wave. By the time we reach Genesis 14, 5 these entities are already known as Rephaim and Emim, having established themselves in Astaroth Karnaim and Shaven Kiriathaim. A deeper dive into the scriptures, particularly Genesis 15:18-21, reveals that these beings were not just random invaders, they were enumerated and named among the Canaanite peoples. From the Kenites to the Kenizzites, from the Cadmonites to the Hittites, the Perizzites, Rephaims, Amorites, Girgashites, and ultimately the Jebusites, we see a broad spectrum of beings intruding upon human history. Each of these groups presents a unique facet of the Nephilim's second eruption, a complex tapestry woven into the early chapters of Genesis, yet despite their imposing presence, these beings were not destined to remain. The scriptures are clear. They were to be cut off, driven out, and utterly destroyed. It was Israel's duty to rid the land of these entities, a task that unfortunately they failed to accomplish. This failure leads us to a tantalizing question. How many of the Nephilim managed to escape to other countries? How have these elusive beings influenced other civilizations and cultures? These are questions that continue to puzzle scholars and enthusiasts alike. These beings were to be eliminated and expelled, but Israel failed in this task, leaving us to wonder how many Nephilim escaped to other countries, possibly influencing other civilizations. The Nephilim were known by many names, each carrying a unique significance in our understanding of these beings. Let's delve into these various monikers. First, we have Anakim, derived from Anak, a notable figure among the Nephilim. Mentioned in the Book of Numbers, the Anakim were reputed to be of great size and strength, their imposing stature towering over ordinary men, much like the Nephilim themselves. Then we encounter Rephaim, a name drawn from Rapha, another prominent individual among the Nephilim. The Rephaim are frequently mentioned in ancient texts, their legacy etched into the tapestry of history. Regrettably, their name is often mistranslated as dead, deceased, or even giants, muddying our understanding of their true nature. Next we have Emim, Horim, Zamzumim, and Avim, names mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy. The Emim, meaning the fearful ones, were said to be a formidable race, their very presence striking fear into the hearts of their adversaries. The Horim, meanwhile, dwelt in Mount Seir, a land ripe with ancient histories and legends. The Zamzumim, or the noisy ones, were reputed for their loud, boisterous nature, while the Avim, hailing from the Philistine city of Avim, were wiped out by the Caphtorim, as told in Deuteronomy. Each of these names paints a distinct picture of the Nephilim, offering us a glimpse into their diverse characters and roles in history. They were giants not just in stature, but also in their influence on ancient civilizations and cultures. Their presence was a formidable force, shaping societies in ways that still echo through the ages. Yet despite their various names and the unique significances they carry, we must remember that all of these beings come under one umbrella term, Nephilim. And it is under this name that they have been most prominently etched into human history and folklore. The Nephilim, often referred to as giants, were a key part of ancient history, their influence and presence shaping civilizations and cultures in ways we may never fully understand. The Nephilim, a breed of beings mentioned in Genesis, have intrigued historians and enthusiasts for centuries. We've journeyed through the annals of ancient texts, tracing their first appearance in Genesis, their significant second eruption, and the multiple names they were known by. Our exploration revealed that these beings were not only present at the dawn of human civilization, but had also established themselves prominently within societies like the Canaanites. Their presence was so pervasive that they were recognized by various names, including Anakim, Rephaim, Emim, and Zamzumim, each name bearing its own historical significance. Despite Israel's attempts to eradicate them, evidence suggests that some may have escaped, influencing other cultures and societies. The Nephilim's enigmatic existence continues to puzzle us, their influence and legacy offering a fascinating glimpse into an ancient world that continues to captivate our imagination. Have you ever wondered who the Rephaim were, these mysterious beings mentioned in the Bible? This question has puzzled theologians, historians, and curious minds alike. The Rephaim, often referenced throughout biblical texts, are shrouded in a veil of mystery and intrigue. They appear in numerous passages from the book of Genesis to the verses of Isaiah, sometimes referred to as the dead, deceased, or even giants. These varied interpretations only add to the enigma. With no resurrection prophesied for them, the Rephaim stand apart from other biblical entities. They were mighty and tall, inspiring awe and fear among those who encountered them. Their principal locality was Ashtaroth Karnaim, and they were known to be associated with the five nations, including Sodom and Gomorrah. Yet, despite these references, much about the Rephaim remains an enigma. Join us as we delve into the ancient scriptures to unravel the enigma of the Rephaim. Our journey begins in the book of Genesis, where we first encounter the Rephaim. The Rephaim, whose name is retained 10 times in the Bible, make their first appearance in the narrative of the Old Testament in Genesis 14:5. They are mentioned within the context of a great battle, a conflict involving 5 nations, including Sodom and Gomorrah. These nations were defeated by an alliance of 4 kings, spearheaded by the formidable Chedorlaomer. The Rephaim were not bystanders in this clash of powers, but active participants, their presence noted amongst the defeated. Genesis 15:20 further cements the Rephaim's presence in the biblical narrative. In this verse, the Rephaim are listed among the various tribes that inhabit the land God promises to give to Abram, the future Abraham. This mention not only confirms their existence, but also locates them geographically, placing them in the land that will become the center of much of the biblical narrative. So, who were these Rephaim? The Bible doesn't offer a definitive answer. The term Rephaim has been interpreted in various ways throughout history, often associated with the dead or the underworld. One thing is clear though, the Rephaim were a formidable force, a significant power in their time. They were involved in the political and military machinations of the period, rubbing shoulders with nations and kings. The Rephaim's association with the 5 nations, including Sodom and Gomorrah, hints at their influence and reach. Their defeat by the kings under Chedorlaomer, rather than diminishing their stature, underscores their significance. They were considered a threat worth engaging by a coalition of kings. From these early references, we see the Rephaim as a formidable force entwined with the early history of biblical nations. Their story doesn't end here, though. As we delve further into the biblical texts, we'll discover more about these enigmatic beings, their connections to giants, and their echoes in ancient mythology. But who were these Rephaim? Scripture often refers to them as giants. Diving into biblical accounts, we find intriguing connections between the Rephaim, the Nephilim, and the giants. These beings are often interwoven, their stories crisscrossing through the Old Testament, painting a picture of a time when the earth was inhabited by these extraordinary beings. The Nephilim, often translated as giants, are mentioned in Genesis and Numbers, and are traditionally understood as being the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. From them, we find the notable descendants, Anak and Rapha, each lending their names to their own clans, the Anakim and the Rephaim. The Anakim, descendants of Anak, were known for their great size and strength. The Bible specifically highlights their stature in Deuteronomy, describing them as great, mighty, and tall. They were so formidable that they inspired great fear in the 10 spies who scouted the land of Canaan. Rapha, another noted descendant of the Nephilim, was the progenitor of the Rephaim. The Rephaim were similarly described as being of great size, their presence in the land significant enough to be noted in multiple biblical accounts. Their physical attributes, as described in the Bible, are truly awe-inspiring. Deuteronomy paints a vivid picture of them with phrases like great, mighty, and tall. The sheer physicality of these beings is hard to comprehend, their stature and strength far exceeding that of ordinary men. These giants, as they are often referred to, were not just imposing in size, but also in their impact on the world around them. They were intertwined with the history and mythology of the time, their influence reaching far beyond their physical presence. They were the titans of their age, their deeds and exploits becoming the stuff of legends, their names echoing down through the centuries. From ancient texts, we gather that the Rephaim and the Nephilim were more than just towering figures. They were powerful entities that left an indelible mark on the world, their stories intertwined with the very fabric of human history. These giants of biblical times indeed cast a long shadow over the scriptures. Interestingly, the Rephaim might have even influenced ancient mythology. As we delve deeper into their story, we find that these beings of supernatural origin may have sown the seeds for the demigods of Greek mythology. The Rephaim, with their might and stature, were the embodiment of power, much like the heroes of ancient tales. In the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 4, we encounter the heroes of old, men of renown. This phrase paints a vivid picture of beings who were larger than life, who performed deeds of great valor and strength, much like the heroes of Greek mythology. These heroes, such as Hercules and Perseus, were often depicted as demigods, part human and part divine. They were beings of extraordinary strength and ability, mirroring the characteristics of the Rephaim. Let's consider Hercules, a classic figure in Greek mythology. He was the son of Zeus, the king of the gods, and a mortal woman. Hercules was known for his immense strength, his courage, and his numerous far-reaching adventures, traits that echoed the descriptions of the Rephaim. Similarly, Perseus was the son of Zeus and a mortal princess. He was a legendary hero, known for his feats of bravery and his victorious battles against monsters and giants. Again, we see parallels with the Rephaim, who were also associated with great strength and mighty deeds. These striking similarities suggest a possible connection between the Rephaim and the heroes of Greek mythology. Could it be that the stories of these biblical giants seeped into the collective consciousness of ancient civilizations, shaping their myths and legends? The Rephaim, being supernatural in origin, were no ordinary beings. They were a breed apart, much like the demigods of Greek mythology. Their tales of might and valor could have easily sparked the imagination of ancient societies, giving birth to the legends of heroic demigods. Thus, the Rephaim may have transcended the pages of the Bible to influence ancient cultures and their myths. The vibrancy of their story, their supernatural origins, and their mighty deeds seems to have echoed through the ages, inspiring the creation of the legendary heroes of ancient mythology. The Rephaim, these mysterious beings, leave us with more questions than answers. As we journeyed through the annals of biblical history, we've unearthed intriguing clues about these enigmatic entities. In the earliest mentions, they were intertwined with the narrative of the 5 nations, including Sodom and Gomorrah, under the shadow of the mighty Kedorlaomer. Their primary residence, it seems, was Ashtaroth Karnaim, while their brethren, the Emim, resided in the plains of Kiriathaim. Their association with giants and Nephilim only deepens the mystery. The Rephaim were great, mighty, and tall, inspiring fear in the hearts of those who crossed their path. Even Og, the king of Bashan, was one of them, his strength evident in the enduring giant cities of Bashan. Their might, it's speculated, might have been harnessed by the Egyptians in the construction of their monumental structures, a question that still perplexes engineers today. The influence of the Rephaim may have extended beyond the physical world and into the realm of mythology. The Greek demigods, the heroes of old, might have been inspired by the mighty deeds of these supernatural beings. The Babylonian creation tablets, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and the Greek mythology all bear potential echoes of the Rephaim's legacy, evolving from the memories and legends of their extraordinary exploits. But despite the pieces of the puzzle we've managed to assemble, the complete picture remains elusive. The Rephaim, these beings with no promise of resurrection as stated in Isaiah, these entities rendered as the dead and deceased, continue to be shrouded in enigma. Their story, intertwined with the narrative of biblical history, is a testament to the enduring mystery and fascination of the Bible. As we close this chapter, the enigma of the Rephaim remains, inviting us to keep exploring the fascinating world of the Bible.